Here is a 2024 Kia Telluride SX in midnight lake blue over navy gray leather. The SX is a step above the EX, which is kind of the sweet spot because you're getting a lot of the features from that and it just goes further. The SX Prestige is going to give even more amenities to the interior, or you can option up to the X Pro, which will increase the towing, give you all-terrain tires, and it's going to have some more gloss black elements on the exterior. I'm Anthony from Hawkeye Rides. Up front, get full LED headlights and daytime runnings. They're adaptive lights in the front for your low and high beam. The Tiger Nose grille is going to have the satin aluminum around it with a matte gray interior. The lower is going to be outlined with the satin aluminum, front and rear parking sensors, and a 360-degree reverse camera, which starts on the EX. A pro that Kia does is when you get into the X Pro, because you're increasing the ground clearance to 8.4 inches, in which, comparing this to Honda, the HPD package doesn't do anything for the vehicle except for aesthetics. Now, if you go into the Trail Sport, it will change the clearance and give you those all-terrain tires, but then it's not going to increase the towing capacity. So that's why it becomes a sweet spot when you're on the SX trim to maybe give that as an option. And underneath this hood is going to house a naturally aspirated V6, 3.8 liter. Producing 291 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque, paired to an 8-speed automatic transmission, achieving 20 mpgs for the city and 26 mpgs for the highway. The SX also adds the fog lamps, which you're not going to receive that in the EX. So just something to think about. The upgraded 20-inch wheels, you can get that in the EX. It'll be a gloss black wheel. This is going to be the two-tone, and going into the X Pro, we'll drop it to an 18-inch because you're getting all-terrain tires. Towing on all trims is at 5,000 pounds, which makes it a little bit more of that everyday rugged SUV that you might be considering Honda, Mazda, or Toyota. And with the Telluride, it's a little bit more unique because it's kind of a luxury off-roading look vehicle, in which it can go even against an Infiniti or an Acura because of what you're getting as a package and the warranty that comes from Kia. LED turn signals are going to be integrated on the side view mirror caps. The roof rails come standard on the EX. Satin aluminum is going to go around all the window trim, and you're going to get a touch on the lower skirt. The all-wheel drive will have a center locker, self-leveling rear suspension, and LED tail lights. The only thing that I wish that they did with the Telluride is split up the exhaust, put one on both sides, so it would look a little bit more athletic into the rear. Telluride badging is going to be across the center. The satin aluminum is going to be in between the bumper with the gloss black elements. One con I have for the rear is the center stoplight. They integrated it after they put the lower roof spoiler, in which it would have cleaned it up if it was integrated inside it. Power liftgate going into 21 cubic feet of storage behind the third row with a 12-volt charger. Bag holders on both sides underneath the floor. Gets a deep storage pocket with a spare tire. Split fold the third row in the back at a 60-40 split, increasing cargo to 46 cubic feet. Now for those captain seats, just push the button here, maxing cargo to 87 cubic feet with everything folded flat. We need to go inside, start it up, so you can hear that exhaust note. Fourteen-way power seat adjustment for the driver, 12-way power seat adjustment for the passenger, heated, ventilated, and leather-wrapped. Memory for the driver. Headroom and leg room. The Telluride is a large vehicle in the interior, a little bit more of a driver-focused setup with the grab handles on both sides. Heated, ventilated front seats, which is a great option, and that comes in this trim. Underneath this trim, we'll still get the wireless charging pad that opens up right here. Here's the key fob for the Telluride. USBs, 12 volts. Harman Kardon is upgraded when you get into this trim as well. Satin aluminum going around all of the air vents with the wood inlays. 2-screen layout with 1 panel. auto dimming rear view mirror, and 2 moon roofs will be stationed on the SX. The EX will only have a power moon roof. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Sirius XM, AM, FM, streaming Bluetooth audio. This is a quick wedge right here. Makes it a little bit easier for the passenger because of the driver focus setup. Throw it into reverse. We have a 360-degree reverse camera, full trajectory. You can also zoom in. And you can do a 3D view, which you can go all around the vehicle. Storage is good because you have an area here you can put your sunglasses. Gloss black elements are going to surround everywhere. And on the passenger side, you got a little area here that you can put some papers. It's going to be more soft to touch. It opens up into a storage container that's very deep with a 12-volt charger all the way down. You can almost fit a pocketbook. Leather wrapped steering wheel, multi-function. And the gauge cluster can go through an array of information for the driver, including different safety settings, turn-by-turn navigation. And when you change the driving mode, it will change out the dials. And the best part about this digital gauge cluster, when you use the turn signals, you can see it right here. So you don't have to worry about that blind spot monitoring that's on the side view mirror. The door panel and the dash can figure in together. I like the blue that outlines, and it runs across the whole top tier of the dashboard. You're gonna get the wood inlays. 64 color ambient lighting comes into the SX. It's soft to touch here, but then it gets hard materials, which it's easy to clean, one touch up and down for all the windows. A large storage pocket with a beverage holder carved out. For the second row, headroom and leg room captain seats, which start on this trim. USB ports behind both of the front seats with storage and some bag holders, cup holders here, and a 12-volt. No third climate control. It has it right here. I just turn it on for you. Air vents in the ceiling, and the EX gets the manual sunshades, so it just comes down the tier. The door panel will get the wood inlays. It's going to be soft where it needs to be, and almost the same size storage pocket that's found in the front. To enter to the third row, push the button, or you can push it on the top here. It's going to slide forward. It's pretty easy when you have these captain seats. Slide it back. I've put this back all the way and reclined, so you can see I wouldn't have any leg space at all. As for feet space, you're going to be sharing some in the back if you're trying to fit 3 occupants. You get cup holders, USB ports, little storage in the back, but it's not going to be the same on the other side, except you do get the USB at least. Headroom is pretty good for a third row variant. Sliding into the center, headroom is not as good. And also leg space, butt and shoulder space is going to be a little bit more cramped, especially if the second row is pushed back. The Telluride has the most horsepower in class. It's not going to be the least in torque. It does tie with the Honda Pilot. So when you're considering 291 horsepower out of this naturally aspirated V6, that is quite a bit, because when you go to Mazda, they now have an inline 6-cylinder turbocharged, in which it's still less horsepower than this. Now the torque goes over 330 pound-feet. That's also a larger vehicle. Drives very smooth. You sit up high enough with the clearance. Road noise doesn't really filter in that much, so going on a long journey or going over 70 miles per hour, it's still going to be a composed ride. Going into the EX is the sweet spot because you're getting leather seats. The SX Prestige adds the Napa leather seats and heated ventilated second row seats. The captain seats is a nice twist because I have them in my personal Infiniti, in which I wasn't keen on it at the beginning, but with my family, the way it's set up, they seem to love it. They actually just kind of hop around, obviously when the vehicle's not running. So it is something that you may want to consider because it's a little bit more comfortable and it gives a little bit more of a luxury vibe in the interior. It's going to take me to some pros and cons. Starting off with the pros on the Telluride. it's a lot of value. You're getting decent MPGs. If you go up and get the X Pro, you're getting better clearance. Tack on the all-wheel drive, and you're getting the center locker. You're also increasing towing to 5,500 pounds, which makes this almost as good as a Nissan Pathfinder, because that tows up to 6,000 pounds, which will be the best in class for this comparison. But this vehicle will beat everybody else in class. And when I'm thinking about Honda, they just went through a refresh. I don't know why they didn't increase the towing capacity. Some cons about the vehicle is how they have put harder materials or plastics pretty much surrounding all of the soft materials, which is okay because where you're going to be resting your arms and sitting or touching is pretty much good. It just gives it a little bit less of that bougie vibe, for lack of better words. And when you're thinking about a Telluride, most people are usually looking at cars that are a little bit more premium, in which you may not be considering a Honda or a Nissan. You might be considering an Acura or an Infiniti, and that's where this is placed at. So that's why I would like to see a little bit more soft materials and higher grade materials inside, similar to Mazda. The best feature by far that Kia offers is when you use your turn signals and you can see the camera in the gauge cluster, because now you don't have to look off the road at all. Let's see the performance. Gets up to speed quick. Another con would be the passenger seat doesn't receive cushion extensions. That's why you get less power seat adjustment, in which, because we're on the SX, this is pretty much borderline to near fully loaded. I would like to see a little bit more implemented in the front area. It doesn't feel overly wide in the lanes, but the interior stresses a lot of storage. It would be nice if they altered this center cluster here and put a pass-through instead of just a little sleeve for the passenger side, but you do have a pretty significant amount of storage inside this center here. As for Toyota, you're gonna have a lot more hard materials. Honda kind of gives it a little bit more further. When they did the refresh, they did increase horsepower by 5, and you have the ability to remove the second row middle seat and store it in the cargo. So that was a cool little feature that was added in the cargo area, so you don't have to leave that center seat in your garage, which they don't even do that in Acura. And they also increase the storage in the center, whereas when you get into Acura, it's a little bit more tight. The Nissan Pathfinder, when you option the Rock Creek, you'll get extra horsepower and torque. Optioning all-wheel drive will get 6,000 pounds of towing, and that just bumps up into the Infiniti QX60, except you're now more of a luxury interior. And when they did the refresh of that, they dropped the CVT and added the 9-speed automatic transmission. And as for the Mazda CX-90, it's a longer vehicle, it's a little bit more box structured, but for the third row, you actually have more space in this than comparing it to that. As for the Volkswagen Atlas, that was refreshed. That one's going to be a little bit more tech savvy. I like the center and the way the dashboard is laid out, because it's a lot more cleaned and revived, and that will have the most leg space in the third row. Towing is up to 5,000 pounds, and they dropped the V6 engine, so they only have a 4-cylinder turbo, which they have increased horsepower and torque and the ability to keep the same towing capacity. But I don't feel you're going to go wrong with this because of getting the naturally aspirated V6. You got the power. You will have the second best towing capabilities in class, one of the best horsepower in class. And the big problem that I have with the Telluride is when you drive it hard and then drive it normal, sometimes it is trying to find the gear, or it'll change the gear too quick, one of the two. And the driver assist features sometimes work a little bit too much, in the sense of if you're going on that long journey, they will alert you for something that doesn't need to be alert. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. Check out the next video, merchandise, website, and Instagram. Leave a comment and a like. And I'd like to thank Regal Kia for giving us this 2024 Kia Telluride for our car review.